Being a musical illiterate. What does that mean? Well, being illiterate typically means one can't read nor write. And even though it's technically true that I can't read or write music, I'm taking some poetic liberty here, and what I'm really referring to is being musically challenged. Yes, musically challenged. And I know what you're thinking, or I know what you perhaps should be thinking, and that is, how can something like that ever be a perk for someone who is, trying to make music? And that is an excellent question. That's why we're here after all, so let's get into it. You know how the city of Barcelona in Spanish is sometimes called Barcelona? And sorry for butchering that, by the way. Well, there's a common myth in Spain that pronouncing it with a sort of soft TH sound came about because the Spanish King Ferdinand was born with a lisp. So people began to imitate the king's pronunciation as to not offend him. This is most likely an urban legend, though, but as such, it's a good one. And as Oscar Wilde said in one of his many, many famous quotes,
imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness.
In this particular instance, though, it was probably more a case of imitation is the greatest way to keep your head attached to your neck. But my point is that people copy people for various reasons. In music, people tend to copy both what they like and what they're most exposed to, consciously or subconsciously. That's how new genres of music develop over time, after all, and why influential bands tend to generate tons of watered-down copies. Through no fault of their own, of course, even though they sometimes go with the bathwater as well when the pendulum inevitably swings. And this phenomenon is not new, and it's certainly not just limited to music, and I would argue it's built into us, and it's part of what makes us the creature that we are. Monkey see, monkey do, after all. But what do you do if you're one of those people who simply can't imitate? If you're musically challenged, to the point of not even being able to copy your favorite band, player, or musical style, like at all? If you can't pick out simple chord progressions, play along to your favorite song, sing in tune, or count tempos? If you are a musical illiterate, like me. And before you think about commenting that I'm being hard on myself or that I'm putting myself down, no. This is an important point, and I don't think denial helps anybody here. I've spent a lot of time, I've worked really hard to be able to write songs and create music that sounds close to what I wanted to, close to where I want to be, and there's no way around that, okay? Developing a craft is going to take time no matter who you are, but especially if none of this comes easy to you. That's why it's so important to recognize the importance of approaching things from a different angle than some of our peers. Some of us just can't do things their way because we don't live in their world. So don't even try to. Make your own world. Rewrite the rules in a way that works for you. I'm a firm believer in that absolutely everything in life comes with an upside and a downside. And if you can figure out how to turn a conventional challenge into an unconventional strength, you're onto something. If you watched any of my videos before, you might know that I am big on alternative costs. I kind of have to be. So let me ask you this. If you had 30 minutes each day to work on music, and only 30 minutes, would you know what to do with that time to get the most out of it? Would you know how to spend those 30 minutes efficiently for you? That would depend on your goals, right? So in my case, my goal is to be able to put out songs that sound as close to what I hear in my head as possible, as close to what I have, as close to my vision as possible. And because I am one person and not a band, I must therefore understand all parts of composing a song. So for me, it becomes very important to understand theory, both in terms of scales, intervals, chord names, modes, but also in terms of playing styles, production, and arranging techniques, sound design, recording, and everything else that goes into making a song sound a certain way. Having a theoretical understanding of the things I do has provided me with the roadmap I would never have had otherwise. It gave me words and names for things I later learned to recognize somewhat through hearing as well, by the way, but I had to reverse engineer it to get to where I am now. I had to make it cerebral first, essentially. I wasn't able to copy what I heard because what I heard was chaos. I realized much later that I listened to sounds rather than pitches, and the sort of sonic quality in something often takes over for me. I've been told before that I've been able to mimic a pitch perfectly without a reference note, for example, which I wasn't aware of, and I can't do it on command. What I did in that particular instance, for example, was just copy how the voice sounded in a specific part, and in mimicking the voice, I was apparently able to mimic the pitch as well, but that was purely by accident. confident. I just try to match the timbre and sort of make an impression of the voice, I guess, and in getting that close, the pitch followed. So it's not that I don't hear, I just listen differently, I guess. But anyway, back to alternative cost. Working on acquiring a theoretical understanding of music came at the price of not spending as much time practicing my instrument, for example, or getting better at singing in tune or holding a note or learning any of my favorite songs or any of the other more typical guitar things that people who play guitar like to do. But since I was never really interested in playing live, these were skills of secondary value to me. My 30 minutes were better invested in working on my craft, which is once again composing and arranging music. Knowing that I was musically challenged and accepting that gave me a drive and a focus to pursue things in a more relentless way, I think. Because I knew that I didn't have the luxury to just sit and mess around and stumble upon songs that way. Okay, so what is the takeaway? Did I even mention any perks yet? I would say it depends on how well you've been paying attention, but let's make it obvious. Let's spell it out and let's turn it into a fake motivational quote to give it some extra weight.
When you aren't equipped with the tools to follow or recognize convention, make it your sole purpose to bless the world with what only an unconventional mind could conjure up.
The point here is that there is a privilege in coming at something from left field or outside the box. That's the upside of not being able to recognize the most obvious pattern in something. I can't do what you do. Goes both ways. I don't listen like a musical person would. I don't hear what everyone else is talking about. I seem to hear something else often, most of the time even. I care about other things, most of the time. I like dissonance and tension. They don't bother me like they seem to bother other people. Sad songs don't make me sad. I mix things that one isn't supposed to mix. I like musicals and death metal. I have a lot of specific preferences, and I sometimes think I rate songs more like I would rate a movie than a piece of music. I care a lot about the emotional element of a song, but how I define that can vary from an inflection in the voice to how a certain timbre of an instrument evokes mystical thoughts of shamanism and the interconnectedness of energy beyond language and culturally constructed filters for how to perceive causality and meaning. And yeah, sometimes that means more to me than if chord progression sounds weird or clunky or awkward to people who can hear such things. Or if a note is out of key. I don't even know what that means. But I do know how I would feel if I changed the note. Sometimes it's better, but sometimes it just makes it feel like everything else, I guess. Anyway, thank you for watching, and hopefully some of this resonated with some of you. And if it did, please consider subscribing, or at least check out my music if you haven't already. And as always, have a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and take care. Bye-bye.